Werewolves, zombies, and demons of every variety. They have all descended on the normally sleepy town of Warren Valley, Ohio, where the holiday and all of its strange traditions are taken very seriously. It's only 8 o'clock and the streets are already packed with costumed visitors, some to show off, others to blend in, but all to celebrate the magical night of Halloween. The one night a year where we can pretend to be the scariest thing we think of.
Jason is my son, and today is his birthday. You can have dinner with us. My brother makes good head cheese. Candyman, I get cheese. Candyman, Candyman. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Hello and welcome to Two Guys, One Necronomicon, a weekly horror review podcast where we talk about all things horror. We talk about your cult classics to your modern day trash, and today we are talking about Trick or Treat, which is an incredible movie.
It really is. It's a joy to watch, and I just love talking about it, and I can't wait to review it.
Yeah, I would like to say, please, if you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook at Two Guys, One Necronomicon. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Two Guys, One Necro. Follow us on Spotify, and if you can, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. It would do a lot for us to get us up the charts so more people could find out about us. Give us 3 stars, 5 stars, 1 star, whatever you want. Just give us a good rating. Write something funny.
But give us that 5-star.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us the 5 stars, write a bad review, and then I'll read it.
Sick. Super funny. Please, that'd be awesome.
So now that begging's out of the way,
we are your final bros, Bryan Hotboy LaGrassa and Shane, the PGA Tour champ, Smith.
it's true. My golf game is amazing.
I wouldn't know. I've never golfed with you.
Yeah, I've never actually played golf. I've only gone to the driving range.
I am your final girl, Jen.
Our final girl and our producer, Jen, is on, and she will always be moving forward. And today, as Shane mentioned, we're reviewing what I'd like to describe as the penultimate Halloween movie. I know I will get flamed for saying it, and I don't care. It is my favorite Halloween movie.
Well, this movie is Halloween.
Yeah.
It's literally the spirit of Halloween in a movie.
Yeah, and I'm not bad-mouthing. I'm not trashing great Halloween movies. Obviously, the one that sticks out is Halloween, and I think Halloween is a great film. I'm just saying in terms of what captures Halloween and does so in several short stories, this movie really encompasses what's so enriching about Halloween, why people love it. And they really go into some of the unwritten rules of Halloween, the do's and the don'ts. And it's so cool how they wrap this film up.
Yeah, if you like candy, pumpkins, costumes, dead children, werewolves, serial killers, it's got it all.
It really does. It hits on everything you just said.
It tells them really well, too. Like, you never get bored of one storyline. You're constantly just, like, switching back and forth between storylines, or you find out that they're somehow all meeting up and they're all connected, and it really, like, keeps your attention as to what's happening.
Yeah, so anthology movies will have, sometimes you'll get hit with, like, a story that's good or a story that's bad. These are all kind of interwoven together, and they're all consistently good.
Yeah, so that's the thing with this one. Like, some anthology movies are just like, this is the story, this is its own story, this is its own story. This is like, they all connect.
Yeah.
They all come together in a way.
I would say some are more direct connections with each other, but for the most part, they're all in one night sequence. You'll see like one character's story kind of mingle in with another character's story because they'll like encounter each other on the street.
I think they all encounter each other.
Yeah.
They all happen because something else happened, essentially. In a way.
Yeah.
It makes this movie very interesting. Like, it's good. It's cohesive. It's like, you don't really find a plot hole in this movie of how they connect the story. You're like, this all makes sense.
It doesn't lack being funny either. There's some parts where it still's kind of funny. And
yeah.
Then at the same time, because like the stories are kind of interwoven, and they do it in such a way that's like, one doesn't begin where the other one ends, like, and then you never hear from the other one again. Like, they're constantly referring back to each other, and it just like keeps your mind going. And it also doesn't have like a clear outline. Like, you actually, if you're not paying attention, you won't know which story comes before the next, and they don't exactly tell you which one comes before the other. by the end, but if you actually pay attention, you'll be able to tell which one is first and then which one is next. And we'll probably put them together at the end of the podcast. If you make it all the way to the end, you'll be able to hear our little synopsis of which story happened first to last.
Yeah, so the director, Michael Dougherty, I only think he did like 2 or 3 like full-length feature films, and this was his first movie. And his second
listed
movie
as a short.
This is listed as a short?
Mm-hmm.
It is 82 minutes, but
I would still consider that a feature film, though. I wouldn't consider it a short film.
well,
I consider it a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point to note, John. In any case, his next movie was Krampus.
The 2018
Mm-hmm.
Krampus? Oh, wow.
And
I'm going to make us do that. Not this year, maybe not this year, but I will make us do Krampus.
We will do it.
Love to
I
do
actually love that movie. I just had a crazy idea for Christmas that I needed to get done. So Christmas is going to be very interesting for you guys listening.
What's interesting about this director is
God
I think
damn
it was just reported like this week or last week that he's actually directing a series adaptation of Clive Barker's Nightbreed. Have you ever seen Nightbreed?
No,
Mm-mm.
I actually haven't.
Yeah, so I think that should be pretty cool coming down the road.
I'll have to check that out. I've just never heard of Nightbreed.
Yeah. So this movie came out in 2007. This is another one where like it was released in 2007 and then it was released a bunch of other places, different dates, 2008, 2009. But originally 2007. So we're saying it was released in 2007. It's a horror. It's got some comedic elements to it too, for sure. And it stars Dylan Baker as Steve Wilkins, Anna Paquin as Laurie, Brian Cox as Mr. Krieg, Leslie Bibb as Emma, Tomo Panekit as Henry, Britt McKillop as Macy, Jean-Luc Bladeau as Schrader, Sam Todd as Rhonda, and Quinn Lord as everyone's favorite, Sam. And I'll be honest with you, this character of Sam is kind of taken on a lot of cult following.
He's a very popular horror icon. I mean, he's not up there with like Freddy, Jason, Mike Myers, but he's like
He
there.
could be.
Like he's on T-shirts, he's on mugs. He's an icon.
I think this is an up-and-coming movie for Halloween, too, because you have your Halloween staple movies, and I think this is an up-and-coming movie just because of his character and how good it was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How iconic he looks, because he's got like this hay bag.
He's a little sack boy.
He's got like a sack, and
Mhm.
kind of looks like a pumpkin.
He's got this little like onesie pajama like set on that's orange for Halloween, and then he's got like it's a little like sack with button eyes.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
It is.
It is adorable.
And this is, for me, why I like it so much, is such a feel-good movie. Besides, you know, all the carnage and the murder, it's a really good tale. It's a great tale of Halloween.
And his name, we were talking about this earlier. Doesn't his name have other meaning?
Yeah, I think it's short because All Hallows Eve and Halloween, however you want to wrap it up, you know, the Gaelic festival is called Samhain, and
Question
I guess
mark?
yeah, question mark for sure, Samhain, and it's half of that. So Sam comes from Samhain. It's constantly referenced throughout this movie.
Yeah, so if we're saying that incorrect, go to the Instagram post for this movie and definitely give us like how we're supposed to say it. Sound it out for us the best you can in the comments.
Samhain?
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 I think it's
Samhain?
I think it's Samhain.
Yeah.
Samhain.
Another character I want to mention, Dylan Baker.
Yes, I was just thinking the same
Dylan
thing.
Baker is so good in this movie. He plays Principal Wilkins. His character comes off as this like nice guy when you first meet him, and then he just turns into Dylan Baker from Happiness.
I was thinking the same thing. This guy is put in roles where he does extremely uncomfortable things to kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that he looks for or he's like, I'll do anything to do something revolting and make a ton of money for
But
it.
he's so good at it.
I know.
For those of you who haven't seen Happiness, it's not a horror movie, but it kind of is because it is a tough watch because he plays a pedophile in that movie. And the scenes with him and the kids are so...
Emphasis on pedophile, emphasis on kids, emphasis on his own kids.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I think it came out after this movie. I think it came
It
out
did.
in 2009. This movie flew well under the radar for me, but if you look at top 10 to 15 most disturbing movies, Happiness is up there on every single list. And it's not a bloody movie by any means. It's the subject matter that's
It's the
really
subject.
tough.
It's incredible. It's a great movie, though.
It is, and it's him specifically. And I'm not going to get into detail because I recommend people to watch it and
Yeah.
just see it because he's great in that movie too in a very twisted and sick way. But yeah, it's a movie that totally flew under the radar. And then when me and you watched it, we were kind of blown away. It was just, and if you watch the trailer for the movie,
It's an upbeat, happy trailer.
it's not at all what this movie is about.
Yeah. So highly recommend Happiness. But now coming back to Trick or Treat, this is his highlight reel to get into Happiness.
Yeah.
Like how he acts in this movie.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now.
He
for
does a
sure.
really good job.
But he's not the only one. The old man, Mr. Krieg, the actor's name I forgot.
Brian Cox.
Incredible.
You know he's the original Hannibal Lecter.
Didn't know that.
Yes.
Threw me for a loop because I never seen the movie Manhunter. And when my boss told me to watch that movie, he's like, you know, the original Hannibal Lecter's. And I'm like, no, he's not. I'm like, Silence of the Lambs. He's like, no. Brian Cox plays Hannibal Lecter in that movie.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that.
You want to hear a funny story about Silence of the Lambs?
Of course.
My mom, not a horror movie person. She doesn't like to watch all that gore and stuff like that. So she goes to turn TV on and she saw, I don't know what the big actors' names are in Silence of the Lambs, but she recognized one of their names. She's like, oh, this will be fun. And she puts it on in the middle of a big slashing scene.
Oh my.
And like upstairs getting ready for work, she just starts screaming. And I'm like, what is it? What is it? And she's like running into walls because she's covering her eyes. And she was like, yes, it's so killing. And I was like, fine, I'll put on Despicable Me. Are you happy?
I'm actually really surprised no one's talked about reviewing Silence of the Lambs.
It's too mainstream.
Yeah, I guess so. But like,
Probably.
wow, that'd be great.
I feel like that's so weird to say though, because I feel like Halloween and like Friday the 13th are so mainstream as well. But I guess, would you consider them a different type of mainstream?
They are.
Because they're cult classics.
It's because they're slashers. Silence of the Lambs is a drama horror.
Someone won an
Oh,
Oscar
okay.
for that movie too, Silence of the Lambs. So it's a little like,
Did the movie win an Oscar?
I just know off the top of my head, Anthony Hopkins won. So
I think it won.
it might have. It very well might have. Now, going to another actress, I think Anna Paquin's incredible in this movie too. She actually has my favorite scene in this movie, which we could talk about when we get to it. But I think she does a great job as Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
She does.
there's so many cool themes in this movie. There's like the theme of like wolf in sheep's clothing.
exactly.
Kind of pops out.
which is why her being Little Red Riding Hood is like so perfect for this movie. Like,
Yeah, I didn't get it at first. We'll talk about it when we get to it because
Yeah,
I had thoughts about that I was like, it was something different than what I was expecting.
since we talk about the actors and actresses first, I gotta say she did a tremendous job.
She won an Oscar at like the age of 9 years old. Like,
Oh my
she's
God.
insanely talented.
I just feel like I haven't seen her in anything. It's
Well,
been
True-
a long time.
She was in True Blood for a while, but
Yeah. Like since then though, like
yeah.
I can't think of anything, which is a shame. Unless she doesn't want to act anymore, really. But
True. We don't want to repeat of that Friday the 13th one where that actress had like the stalker.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
That was
Adrienne
bad.
King.
Yeah, she does voice acting and she does stunts, but nothing where her face can be on camera.
interesting. All right. Do you guys have anything else to say about the actors, actresses, or do you want to jump right into the opening scene now?
I'm ready to jump into the spooky pit.
Then let's jump right into the spooky pit.
5 interconnected tales that take place on All Hallows Eve. I will give no additional details. I think that's all we need to know.
All right.
We're good.
And I think let's just get right into our spoiler and synopsis portion. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I guess if you've never seen or listened to our podcast prior, we do give a summary, a synopsis, and a review of the film on a rating of 1 to 10, 1 being a dumpster fire, 5 being a very average film that you may or may not want to watch again, and 10 being a masterpiece.
Like Cruel Intentions.
We have yet to give a 10 out. Shane will always say Cruel Intentions. He is always wrong. So let's get ready for our synopsis of this film. The film opens up, and it's like an old-time instructional video of the guidelines trick-or-treaters are to follow on Halloween. And I do not know the aspect ratio, shame on me, but it's like this little box frame in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, it's like a 5 to 7. I just threw out 2 numbers.
That's fair. The video, it mentions to walk on the sidewalks, never to go to strangers' houses, never go out alone.
All the basics that you're supposed to not let your kids do.
The video then glitches out, and you see like these orange eyes in the mouth of a jack-o'-lantern. And then there's some crafty camera work here, and there's an editing transition to modern day where a jack-o'-lantern sits on the ground and kids are trick-or-treating.
Before we go through with this, it's not a fault with the movie. I actually have a question. How do you go trick-or-treating without going to strangers' houses?
I was going to say the same thing. I think that's, maybe back in the day it was different. Like you'd go to the houses for people you know. I'm not sure. I can't say.
Because, I mean, that opening scene is shot. It's essentially a PSA for Halloween.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my only thing. I was like, I don't see how that's possible. Unless you're in a small town and you do know everyone. But
Yeah.
It's a very odd tradition that we've somehow kept up.
it's kind of great that you just go to random people's houses and take their candy.
It's odd and quirky.
Yeah, because when you really think about it, like you're sending your small child to a stranger's house to take like.
And what's cool about this movie is they explain the actual origin of that idea.
Yeah.
They explore that, which is awesome.
Okay, but we could get back into this. So you see a couple walking. They stop in front of their gate to their home, and the lady, like you said, blows out the candle to a pumpkin. But they kind of film it where you can tell they're being watched.
Yeah, they're being watched, and the way you can tell is the person, I guess you could say, let's call them the entity that's watching them. It's a POV shot, so you just see what this person's watching, and it's got like this covering over the frame, so you know it's like probably somebody in a mask or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the two characters here that you mentioned, they're married. They're named Emma and Henry.
I'm glad you said their names because I called them in my notes Man and Leslie Bibb.
Well, I know Leslie Bibb. She's in a lot of movies, and the other guy, Tomo, is in Battlestar Galactica. So.
I've never seen that one.
I had no idea they had names.
Yeah, see, I didn't either.
Emma's kind of like the person who's just like, it's just so much to keep up with Halloween. You know what I mean? It's just like a strange tradition, and it's just so like too much work.
Yeah,
really.
she's being a real Colin.
Well, it's funny because she's like, you're going to be so drunk and hungover tomorrow. Like, you say you're going to take it down, but you're not going to take it down. And then my mom's going to come. Like, I got stuff to do tomorrow. Like, if I was her, I'd be like, if I know he's not going to take it down, I'm going to start taking it down tonight because I need him to do the rest. So I get it.
And that's kind of the plan here. Even when she blows it out, he kind of warns her. He's like, maybe not put out the jack-o'-lantern. It's supposed to stay lit. It's like some kind of ancient tradition. She's like, well, it's Halloween, not Hanukkah.
Yeah, the jack-o'-lantern it keeps you safe. A lit jack-o'-lantern keeps away the spirits and the demons and the ghoulies and all that stuff. So when she blows it out, you know.
It makes me wonder if she's blown it out every year and the demon or whatever was just wandering through like separate towns. And this year he was like, oh, how dare they? In her head, she's like, I've been doing this forever. You just noticed.
Yeah, you just noticed now, right? And then, so when she does this, there's like, she's getting watched with like low music playing, low humming sound. And like Henry's like, you know, you should be careful. There are rules. You might upset somebody.
There are rules.
There's a POV shot of whoever's watching them is actually walking closer to them. And it's kind of cool because the person stops, sees their jack-o'-lantern that they put out on the floor, bends down to look at it, and then, you know, continues to kind of follow them right in front of their yard. Emma, she's like wearing this robot costume. She takes it off. She bends over. Henry's looking at her butt, and he's like, it's go time. Upstairs, baby. And she's like, you need to take down the decorations. And like Jen said, she kind of relents. She's like, fine. You put on the videotape. The videotape that's going to get them hot and bothered.
Yeah.
I'm taking down the decorations, and then I'll meet you up there.
What I like about this movie, a contrast from our last review, is she's wearing a very modest costume.
It's
I
a
love her
robot.
costume. I will dress up as her this year.
Dress up as her as the actress, or dress up as her as the robot?
As the robot.
Yeah, I'll dress up as Suzanne from Night of the Demons.
There you
I
go.
would probably do some things to you.
Should I exit? Is that my cue?
Yeah, it's your cue.
Yeah, it's your cue. Brian, give me the pussy whiskers.
Shane, question. Leslie's big character, Emma, bends down. Boner check?
No, we're good.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay.
That's a weird thing to ask.
You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's fair. As you said, now she starts unplugging stuff and pulling down the decorations, and her husband is laying down in the house.
Oh, I just want to mention, he does find the tape when he goes inside, and the tape says nature special, and it's porn.
I mean, it's technically not mislabeled
I guess not.
because that is human nature.
Sure.
I didn't know how else to justify that.
Don't.
Because I don't think they have kids, so it's not like they'd be hiding the movie, right?
No.
Because what if a friend came over and it's like, oh, you got a nature special? And then they put it in.
Let's pop it in VCR in 2007.
That's
Got
also
it.
a good point.
They probably got it from the porn shop around the corner.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's
yes. All right, so then we cut back to her taking out all the decorations. Doesn't she kind of like feel like someone's watching her while she's doing this? Or she sees the guy in a skeleton mask across the street watching.
just staring like right at her, and she kind of stares back, and there's like a little stare down.
Yeah, but then it's just all nothing because it's just a kid getting picked up by his friends.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, oh, hey, man.
His mask had blood on it too, so it's totally creepy. She breathes a sigh of relief, and then literally all of a sudden, something that is obstructed by like this white sheet, I guess from one of the scarecrows that she has set up, jumps onto her, and she screams.
And now the husband wakes up, thinks he hears something, but then realizes the porn is on and it's just making that noise. So he kind of lays back down.
It's funny because the audience, you're like, oh, he's woken up by the screams of his wife. He's woken up by the screams of flesh pounding against each other.
Yeah. And so he just goes back to sleep. Then we cut back to the wife who gets her throat cut by a lollipop.
pretty sick scene. The killer kind of jumps out, right, of the scarecrow, as we've mentioned, but like the sheet is over them, so you really can't see what's killing her.
No.
And they spill out onto the sidewalk
In front of
house,
two kids.
in front of trick-or-treaters, who I believe we see at some point in the movie because it's all connected. Kills her with like a cutout piece of a lollipop with a pumpkin design on the lollipop. Blood squirts all over the sheet.
It's a crazy scene. Then we cut to the husband who wakes up. I think the porn's over. So he realizes like, oh shit, like where is my wife? She's never come back. So he goes outside to look for her. And that's when he finds, how did you describe this, Jen? The way you phrased it is very good.
She is a Jesus scarecrow.
Yes. She is a Jesus scarecrow.
They prop her up, and I guess like they put a white sheet over her.
He notices it because it glows and it starts to like short circuit in a way, or like flicker.
When he sees her, she has the lollipop just shoved like into her mouth. It makes this like creepy face.
She's a human jack-o'-lantern.
Whoever did that had a really minimal amount of time to decorate, but really made the most of what they had.
For sure. That's actually, please explain to me. No, I mean, he did it while the husband was sleeping, so it's fast work.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know how long the porn movie was, so you don't know how long the husband was asleep. It could have been an hour to do all that. You don't know?
There was still a decent amount of people just out and about, though, for whoever that was to just like do that so quickly.
Yeah, this is a thematic movie. It's not like an overall gore fest, but the kills are really good.
Yeah.
Agreed. Then we get hit with the opening credits, which are actually really cool. Comic book style, like comic book panels. They show different scenes of the movie, essentially.
Yeah, they do. And I made a lot of notes here just while we're going through these opening segment as illustrations and captions discussing Samhain, what's commonly known as All Hallows Eve, better known as Halloween. And the illustrations depict this young kid. He has a pumpkin for his head. And the caption says, meet Sam. Sam being the shortened version of Samhain, takes on the persona of this sack boy.
I call him sack boy because that's what he is. He's adorable. He's a sack boy.
More captions say, this is the one night when the dead and all sorts of other things roam free. Don't let the jack-o'-lantern go out as it will protect you. These traditions were started to protect us. Always check your candy. Wear a costume to disguise yourself as one of them. It even highlights some characters in the stories that we're going to go through. Some of the tales of this film. Rhonda, Stephen, Lori, and Mr. Krieg.
After that, we see a boy. He's dragging his candy sack. Is it like just melted chocolate at the bottom? Or is that just dirt from dragging it?
Probably both, because he drags it through town. And I think the camera work is brilliant here because it's a tracking shot while he's going through and it just follows almost the ground pattern of him dragging the candy.
It's disgusting, regardless of dirt or candy. Because either way, I wouldn't want to eat what's ever in that sack.
After that point, the movie does cut back to earlier in the night, and it actually says earlier in the night as a caption of the film. A reporter is covering the night that is occurring because there's a lot of people out in the streets celebrating the holiday of Halloween.
Did we mention where we're located yet?
Yes, in Warren Valley, Ohio. Everybody's wearing costumes, celebrating in the streets, and there's a reporter. She's mentioning the strange traditions that are taken very seriously in this town. It's already 8 p.m. Streets are packed. She mentioned some people are costumed to show off. Others are costumed to fit in. Everybody's here to celebrate.
And then from that, we cut to a costume shop. We're going to meet these 4 girls who are trying on costumes for Halloween night. And they're discussing what they've done for Halloween, like the last couple of years.
It's funny.
What I like about this scene, it's kind of funny, is there's a little boy who's like peeking in between like the 2 doors to try to see the girls in the changing room. So we have a little perv in the movie.
He's watching them like freaking the dude in, what's that movie?
Porky's?
The Burning.
Oh, The Burning.
The Burning, where he's checking out. And they bicker over the cities that they've been to the past couple of years, picking up guys. San Diego was last year. Tampa was 2 years ago. Last year, they dressed as sailors, and they ended up with sailors. One of the sailors was a girl with a nice ass. She even mentions it all tastes the same.
Yeah.
Little ass-eating Shane.
It is ass-eating.
I didn't even I did not catch that line.
But this line, it actually scares the boy because the boy retreats. Yeah. And then the mother's like kind of bangs on their door and is like, there's kids out here. And the girls don't give a shit.
No.
The boy's costume? It was a wolf.
Ooh, okay. That's cool. So then 3 of the 4 girls, they come out and they all look great. They look stunning, as one would say. The only girl that doesn't come out is Lori. But then she does, and they're all like fairy tale characters, or like, because she's Little Red Riding Hood, Lori, who is Anna Paquin, and the other ones are supposed to be like
Disney
Is it Cinderella?
princesses.
Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
What was the third one? I forgot. Was it Snow White?
Yes, I think it is Snow
Cinderella,
White.
Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and
Little Red
Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes.
I was gonna say Little Red Robin Hood, and I was like, different fairy tale.
Lori's kind of like embarrassed, right, of how she's dressed compared to the others. Like,
Yeah, because she looks like she's 5.
yeah,
The other girls kind of like chuckle, and Danielle's like, "It's tradition. We got to dress up."
It's her
Tradition.
sister.
yes, they
Daniel-
are sisters.
Danielle and Lori are sisters, and I think Lori's the younger sister.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they allude to throughout the movie that this is Lori's first time, that she's never done it before. It has a double meaning in this
definitely
movie
has a
because
double meaning.
I won't tell you what it is yet because I won't spoil it. But you're to believe that she's never picked up a guy to be with yet,
Mhm.
and this is like their night to get her first one. So that's why as soon as they go to check out, Lori's sister picks up the clerk. She's like, "What time do you get off? What are you doing after? Meet me at Sheep's Meadow."
Dude, the line, it was totally inadvertent by the clerk, is so funny. He's like, "Your costume costs $233.30D." He's like, "Oh, I meant $243.33." Like, what an idiot.
She's into it though.
Sheep's Meadow, 45, baby.
So they're all going to meet there. Now we cut back to the fat kid walking with his sack, and he's just smashing pumpkins.
Smashing pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns is like you're destroying the protection of someone's house.
Yeah, you're also being a dick.
Just not a good vibe. Not a good vibe. Chocolate all over his face. He has no problem making this mess. He sees a house with a ton of pumpkins on the porch, and he decides to, slowly walk up to this porch. He sees a sign. The sign says, "Sorry, we're not home, but help yourself to one piece of candy." He disobeys. He appears to take, not only the candy, though. It's like he takes the entire pumpkin of chocolate into his bag, it looks like. Greedy bastard.
Yeah. As we see him doing all this, a man walks up to him, Dylan Baker's character, and he says, "Take a seat."
So it can't be good for your diabetes, dude.
Yeah.
Well, he like talks to him about being like such a glutton and that like he shouldn't take so much, but if he's interested, he has some chocolate.
So now we cut back to the girls. And now the other two girls, Maria and Janet, they approach two guys. They look like the film crew for the news.
They are the film crew for
Yes.
the news.
And they're like, "Hey, you want to be our dates for the night?" And those guys ain't saying no. These are 4 attractive girls that no one that they go up to is probably going to say no.
Yeah, I love their pickup line of these guys. They're like, "That's some big equipment you've got there."
Yeah.
2 girls approach them asking 2 camera guys, so not all 4 girls approach them. The sisters are talking about her first time. Again, what's her name? Lori, yeah, talk about Lori's first time. And the other 2 girls are picking up the 2 camera guys.
Maria and Janet.
Like I said, yes.
Yeah, and the one girl is talking to them, and she's like, I forget exactly what the line is, but it was so funny because she's like, "We're going to this like really fun party tonight," and the other girl's kind of staring at them like she's in a daze, and then she like hits her arm while she's like, "Oh, we need dates."
3 of the 4 girls have dates. We can now cut back to the kid and Dylan Baker. Does the kid have a name?
Charlie.
So Charlie and Dylan Baker's character, who we will now learn is Principal Steve Wilkins, they're sitting on the stairs together. Principal Wilkins is like carving this pumpkin.
Ginormous blade he has. And he's like, "It's for the pumpkin. It's not for you."
Wilkins goes on to tell him how like his dad taught him about respect on Halloween night and how to respect like the dead. And they talk about how the traditions of Halloween were started to protect us.
But nowadays, nobody really cares anymore.
No. While this is going on, he gave Charlie chocolate. And so Charlie's just been eating this chocolate the whole time they've been having this conversation. Then Charlie starts to like choke on the candy.
It's funny because Steven continues to talk. He's like, "I didn't do such a good job of carving out this pumpkin while this kid is gagging and choking."
Yeah. And he's like showing the kid the pumpkin as the kid is choking. This is where like Dylan Baker comes off so good because like he's crazy, but he like has this smile and this happy, like go lucky persona because like he says, "Kid, always check your candy." And as he says this, the kid projectile vomits chocolate.
Oh, I hated this scene so much.
It's gross because he does it, and then he does it more, and then he does it more, and it's all chocolate and blood, and he then passes out on Stephen Wilkins' lap.
Like I said earlier, this is a fat kid. Mr. Wilkins is struggling to get this kid like through his door and into his house.
I did a little research. I'm like, what did he actually do? I'm guessing it's cyanide in there.
Yeah, I'm
So-
assuming he just poisoned the
That's
candy.
what I was reading, and it said cyanide.
So do you want to kind of know?
Yeah.
fun things regarding a Halloween candy. I feel like everybody fears like a mass poisoning in Halloween candy. The whole thing with like the needles and all that being in candy. It's actually so very rare that like someone will just decide to poison a bunch of candy. It's not impossible, but more often than not, it's mostly done because of a family member. Probably a good time. I actually have like two really quick like little Halloween poisoning stories. There was one from 1964 where Helen, and I'm not going to say her name right, so forgive me, correct me on Instagram, Helen Fell, Pfeil. I should say it how it's spelled, but no one Fell. Yeah, no one likes to spell things how they should be said. So she was pissed about older kids trick-or-treating, so she thought it would be funny to give them like dog treats, steel wool pads, and arsenic-laced ant poison buttons.
That's always a good time.
Yeah, she was obviously found out and she actually pled guilty and she was charged. But I think the most notable one was in 1974 on Halloween. Ronald Mark O'Brien took his kids out trick-or-treating with like a neighbor and their kids, and like just like the two families went together and they went to this house. No lights were on. Obviously no one was going to answer. So he was like, oh, go on ahead. And then he catches up and he was like, oh, they were home here. And he hands like the 5 pixie sticks to the 5 kids. Then his son, when they get home, I think his name was Tim, wanted candy. So he gave him one of the pixie sticks and the kid immediately ate it and said, oh, it tastes kind of like sour. And he gives him Kool-Aid to wash it down. The kid immediately starts projectile vomiting. And then he goes to the bathroom, continues to get sick, and he goes limp. On the way to the hospital, the kid dies, and the autopsy reveals that it was laced with a fatal dose of potassium cyanide, about enough to kill 2 to 4 adults.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, a lot. And
that is sick.
Right? And then the other kids actually didn't eat theirs. The other parents found out almost immediately. One kid almost did, but he couldn't get it open because it was resealed, obviously, and he just couldn't get it open and fell asleep with it in his hand. But the guy who ended up killing his kid had taken out $60,000 life insurance on his 3 kids because he was a gambler. He couldn't hold a job. Everything was getting repossessed. So he thought taking out the life insurance on his kids would take care of it. So he was basically just trying to kill his kids. But that's the only case I could find of actual Halloween candy poisoning. All the others are like scares. It's not really a thing.
Yeah, it's not. Like you said, it is a fear. I know I had the fear. I think I mentioned on a previous episode, I was afraid at one point that people were putting anthrax in their candy.
Really?
There was an anthrax scare, like when we were back
in the an
irrational fear because it didn't happen. But as a kid, you're scared. This is why you're not supposed to go to strangers' houses to trick or treat.
Yeah.
But even like Jen said, your own family will kill you.
Yeah, they're more likely to kill you than a stranger.
Oh yeah, you're most likely to get kidnapped by someone you know than a stranger.
Getting back to the movie, he's struggling.
It's a big kid.
It's a really big kid.
I feel like we're just dissing the kid.
No. I mean, you have to describe that the kid's big. Otherwise,
I know.
With the next scene that's coming up here, because he's trying to struggle to get him inside, his doorbell rings, and he's covered in blood.
It's blood from the vomit.
Yeah. And he answers his door, and it's 3 kids trick-or-treating, and he gives them candy, and then they say, hey, Mr. Wilkins, can we have your jack-o'-lantern? He gives it to them, right?
It's for a good cause. They're asking for UNICEF, and that's totally true. That's what they need it for.
Exactly. While this is happening, Sackboy is also there watching this.
I think this is also a scene, one of the kids refers to him as principal, and you realize he's the principal of their school.
Yes, they call him Principal Wilkins. Obviously, they don't even question all the blood on his shirt because they just figure it's a Halloween costume, which is fair.
It may smell, though, honestly.
Yeah, maybe he did a good job.
They do, but you see the little boy dressed up as a sailor, like, when they're getting ready to go leave. I guess he, like, looked down and saw blood on the ground, and then he just, like, looks behind him, and he follows this trail of blood on the ground and then looks directly at the principal and, like, all the blood, like, on his shirt.
It's cool because the last kid leaves, and like you said, you see Sam just standing there. He asks him if he, did you get any
kid? Yeah, that's right. He says, do you want anything? And doesn't Sam take a piece of candy and then leave?
He does. He takes candy, and I think that's a very important part of this story is that he takes candy. He took the candy.
Yeah.
He doesn't bother them.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's great. Now we cut back to the girls. The 3 girls, Maria, Janet, and the older sister, I forgot her name. Danielle. They are going to leave with their dates as Lori stays back to find her own date.
Because then it's going to cut right back to Steve as he grabs a machete from the closet. He then brings Charlie's body. He brings him outside. He's already got a pre-dug hole, and inside the hole is another bag of corpse.
Yes. I see. This isn't my favorite scene of the movie, but it's an incredible scene because Mr. Wilkins is trying to bury this other body now in his backyard, and his son just keeps shouting out of the window, "Hey, Dad, we have to carve the jack-o'-lantern."
Come back from trick-or-treating. We need to carve it. He looks up. He's like, tells his son, he's like, shh. His son clearly sees what he's doing, but he's kind of young. Like, he may not grasp the concept that his father is burying a dead body. Dad, why do I have to be quiet? He's like, go watch Charlie Brown.
And the kid's response is amazing. He's like, Charlie Brown's an asshole.
And then
Watch
he
your language.
just goes back in the house.
I love the back and forth between them because, like, he's just telling the kid to be quiet because he's burying bodies. Like, he's like, stop drawing attention to me right now.
Starts hearing a dog barking
Yes.
in the neighboring yard.
Yes, the dog's like trying to come through under the fence. So he like cuts like a body part off. He cuts a finger off and he throws it to the dog to eat. And that's when the neighbor comes out.
And this is Mr. Krieg.
Yes. And I'll let you talk about this.
He's yelling for his dog, and his dog's name is Spike. He's like, Spike, get back in the house, get back in the house. All of a sudden, Charlie, who's the dead corpse in the hole that he put in, starts to make noise. This is startling Steve. The man, I guess Mr. Krieg, he starts yelling. He's like frightened. He's like, I got a shotgun. And Steve tells him, he's Mr. Krieg, it's me. And he's standing in the hole with a shovel. He couldn't look any more suspicious. Unless he's putting a time capsule in there.
Yeah.
But he's burying that shit real deep.
Yeah. This kind of turns into like a Three Stooges moment. Because, like, as Steve's, like, trying to talk to the neighbor, he's also, like, smacking this child with a shovel.
Yeah.
Like, this is the strongest child of all time.
He's making noise, and he's got to shut him up. This is why this movie's kind of a comedy. Krieg is like, what are you doing down there, Steven? Hiding bodies? Charlie, he continues to make noise. Like you said, he keeps hitting his body to make him shut up. Steve tells him, he's like, it's the septic tank backing up. Because they mentioned that it smells. He's like, that's the smell. It's the septic tank. He's like, well, go fix it. It stinks like a dead whore out here.
I love it. I love his lines.
A very resilient child.
Oh, is this where the son then starts shouting out of the window again?
Yeah. Yep.
What does he shout this time? I actually don't remember.
He wants to carve the jack-o'-lantern and hang out with his dad. But he also said that he couldn't hang out with his son because he has a date later.
Yeah.
Yes.
The kid also wants to go to the parade.
Yes. But he won't take him there. After he gets the son to be quiet and says he'll do it in a second, you see him smack the child one last time with a shovel, and then you cut to him watering the ground. They've been buried, and now he's watering the ground. As he's walking, I gotta mention this, before he gets inside, he's walking up his stairs, and he sees Mr. Krieg pounding on the window, like, help me, help me. He ignores him, walks inside, and Mr. Krieg just gets tackled by some, like, you don't know what it is.
Yeah, whatever it is a kind of an obstructed view, but you see a quick shift, and he just literally taken out, tackled, forced away from the window.
So now Wilkins is inside, and he's bringing his son downstairs. As he's bringing his son downstairs, he has this knife that he's, like, kind of holding kind of behind his back, right?
Yeah, behind his back.
He puts his son in front because they're making you think they're about to carve the jack-o'-lantern, but they're framing it that Wilkins is about to stab his son. Because he's slowly starting to bring the knife up above his son. And then he goes to, like, stab, right?
Yeah. He goes to stab, and he also grabs his son's head.
Yes.
Like, let's carve a scary face this time. And then he says, a scary face it is, and slices right through what we believe is a jack-o'-lantern.
Yes.
And then he shows his son how to grip the knife. And the son says, as long as you help me with the eyes, Dad, that's what I need help with. I just can't do the eyes. But this isn't an ordinary jack-o'-lantern.
No, this is actually Charlie's head. So you learn that Mr. Wilkins' son is a serial killer in training.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What does that make Steve Wilkins?
An actual serial killer?
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Okay.
I was going to say, what are you trying to refer to? The Kool-Aid Man? I don't get it.
Oh, yeah. So now we cut back to those three kids that asked Mr. Wilkins for a pumpkin. In a scene, just like Night of the Demons, they go to another house where they open the door and it's a weird fucking party. This is like the old woman panty scene in Night of the Demons. Is this another, like, teacher they know?
Yeah, Mrs. Henderson.
Yeah, and she's just, like, drunk off her ass. There's, like, an orgy happening behind her. There's, like, a hot dog man and something else, like, going at it.
They're, like, banging with their costumes on. It's, like, weird. Mrs. Henderson, she answers. She wags her little kitty tail at them, telling them her costume is perfect.
Yeah, this is really creepy.
She actually offers them a drink.
She does.
Yeah.
And one kid is kind of interested, but they decline. She goes to get the candy. By the way, I just want to mention, these kids also have their own storyline, these trick-or-treaters. So we'll come back to them.
They, though, want another pumpkin, which I think they get. And then they keep walking, and they meet a fourth kid who has a cart full of pumpkins.
Yes, he does. And this is Schrader.
And this is where I'm going to just say it like the movie says it. They go to see Rhonda the retard.
Yeah.
That's it, word for word how it's said in the movie.
They make a joke that she's an idiot savant, which is further making fun of her. But she's creative.
She is normal. They're just bullies.
Yeah, they're bullies.
Yeah.
She's fine.
Their family probably has a reputation in town because they reference like her mom or her aunt also being really weird, or like the one boy's like, she's not weird, it's just her aunt. So I guess like maybe they're the oddball family in town and like they're misunderstood.
She comes off as just like quiet and like, I guess nerdy because she knows everything about Halloween and she enjoys talking about it. And I guess that's like, they're kids. So I guess it's weird to kids.
She's like super into the holiday. She mentions she makes costumes. She makes some of the jack-o'-lanterns. I want to talk about these kids because the one girl, she's like the leader of the crew, Macy, because they kind of go to her beck and call.
Yeah.
She seems like super nice. She's like asking for the jack-o'-lanterns or UNICEF, and she's like the biggest bitch in the movie.
In a movie filled with serial killers, dead children, and other stuff I don't want to spoil, she's the worst character in the movie in terms of being a person.
Total scumbag. She's like, from all of those interactions with her trick-or-treating, she comes off as this sweet girl.
Yeah, she's horrible. She's worse than Wilkins.
The whole idea is Schrader charm Rhonda to coming with them.
Yeah.
So they leave Schrader to do his thing, but Schrader's actually a super nice guy, but he does go along with it, and he does kind of start charming her a little bit to come with them.
He seems like a very real person where he feels empathy at different scenes. But now we cut to the actual big town party. I guess this is the same town, this party, right?
Yeah.
We see a man in a mask.
In a black cloak, right?
We have no idea who this is, and he's making out with this girl. And they're just kissing. It's, you know, it's your drunken hookup in an alleyway.
Boner truck?
We're good.
Okay.
While that's going on, he's slowly like, you know, kissing her neck. And then he starts kissing her wrists. And that's when she starts to realize this man has bitten me a few times because she is like bleeding.
He gives her a face lick.
Yes, he does lick her face.
She starts to freak out.
Yeah, I would too if I was hooking up with a dude in an alleyway and I started bleeding from everywhere he just kissed.
Yeah, she looks down and she's like covered in blood instantly.
Yeah.
You see underneath the mask, and he has fangs. You thought the fangs were real.
Of course I did, because we're already kind of establishing it's a supernatural night. So I was like, okay, so a vampire is going to be another side story in this.
So she runs out of the alley. She is screaming. It's a shame that
She does just look like a drunken girl running out in a Halloween costume.
Yeah, she's looking around and she's like, she is covered in blood, but she's looking at all the other people. And I guess like a lazy costume is you just throw blood on you.
Yeah.
So that's what a ton of people have. Like there's a ton of people covered in blood. Like there's no cause for alarm for her looking like she has blood everywhere.
Exactly. And now she's down on the ground, and the two people from the beginning of the movie,
Emma and Henry,
they go and they see her and they're like, should we help her? And I think it's Emma said, no, she's just another drunken fool or something like that. So they just walk right past her, because they do show other people passed out on walls, because the next scene is that girl's body propped up next to another passed out drunk person. So she just looks like a person covered in fake blood. Now, after that, we cut back to the kids, and they're going to one of my favorite places in the world, a rock quarry.
Yeah, and it's like a cliff kind of overlooking a lake. On the way there, Rhonda educates Chip, one of the boys that was with them,
God, I didn't know that was his name.
on the whole history between Samhain, or All Hallows Eve, or Halloween. It predates Christianity. It's the Celtic holiday celebrated one night between autumn and winter, where the barrier between the living and the dead was the thinnest, and included rituals, even featuring human sacrifices. And Rhonda definitely appears to be interested in this type of conversation, as Chip is not.
Yeah, he's like freaked out. I think it's Macy is the one who says they're here to pay respects to the dead kids that were massacred on Halloween. It was called the Halloween School Bus Massacre. And there's a very long story about that I guess I'll let you tell.
Yeah, I mean, the Halloween School Bus Massacre, it happened 30 years ago on a late Halloween afternoon. A flashback ensues as Macy continues to tell the story. A school bus was traveling on its usual route. She mentions that this wasn't your typical school bus, though, and not your typical kids.
No, these kids were different. They were troubled. They were disturbed. And that's all you really get about these kids. Also, I want to point out, before you continue the story, these 8 kids are in the scariest Halloween costumes I've ever seen. The one kid in the back who's like a long cloak with a devil head.
That was terrifying. It was so thin.
Yeah. Like that kid had to be a stick.
That was
And then
creepy.
just like the clown and the Dracula.
Dracula.
They're creepy costumes.
There's a sack kid in the corner too.
There is.
Yeah, he's got like a sack.
God, I didn't even notice that. I was so scared by the devil.
It's like definitely implied that these are mentally disabled or mentally challenged kids.
They
Yes.
are. And this is, I'll be honest, this is a sick story.
It is. That's why I wanted to let you tell it.
But you're absolutely right. They're terrifying. There's 8 of them in total, and they're troubled, disturbed kids. Parents put these kids on a bus to be driven miles outside of town in secrecy. They didn't want anybody to know that these were their kids. They wanted them to go far away to kind of like isolate these kids from everyone else so they wouldn't know that they were actually doing this.
Mhm.
However, that day, the driver took a different route. This triggers a kid in the Dracula mask to say, wrong way, wrong way, wrong way. They
Yeah.
even pass the kid with the sack for a head, a.k.a. Sam,
Yeah.
on the side of the road, picking up a dead bat with a stick. He's always there, fellas.
He's always watching.
Instead of taking the students home, he took them to an abandoned rock quarry. He puts his foot on the gas, and he drives as fast as he can. And Macy continues to explain, the kids didn't know this, but their parents got exhausted over the years, embarrassed about these kids. They were willing to do anything to ease their burden. The driver in the story stops at the edge of the cliff, and the kids are very confused about what he's doing. Macy says one day the parents made an offer to the bus driver. The bus driver turns around in the bus, actually picks up a box full of candy, walks it over to each one of the kids, right? He's giving them candy, making sure that they're secured in their seatbelts while he's doing this.
I take it as he's throwing one piece of candy in each of their buckets and then making sure the chains are tight. It's kind of like, I guess maybe the candy's supposed to be like a distraction to like him checking the chains.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because he does it almost simultaneously. Macy continues to say, the money that these parents collected made him do the unthinkable. The kid in the Dracula mask continues to yell, wrong way. Home. He's like, home, home, home. He wants to go home. He loosens his restraints, and the driver at this point is in the back of the bus. He's still handing out candy. He hears the engine start again.
Mm-hmm.
The boy with the Dracula mask is at the wheel of the car. The driver tries to run up, trips and fall in the middle of the bus. The kid puts his foot on the gas, wanting to go home so badly, shifts the bus into drive and drives right off the cliff.
Now, from the story, Macy says the bus driver was never heard from again. But from the flashback, you do see that the bus driver survived because they show the masks start to float up to the top of the water. But then you do see the bus driver grab onto the rocks and pull himself up. So it is shown that the kids were killed, but the bus driver did survive despite no one ever hearing from that bus driver again.
They say that the bus sank so low it couldn't be found. And others say it didn't want to be found.
Spooky.
When I was watching that part, Miranda, my friend who I was watching with, pointed out, she was like, so we can go deep enough to find Titanic. But that bus, it's too deep.
Not in Warren Valley, Ohio.
Yeah, I think it's all about the budget. Where are we allocating the budget? Do we have scuba team out there? Probably not.
Shane's always about the budget.
I'm a big budget guy. Not
Can
really.
we fly them? Yes. Do we want to? Not really.
No, we're good. Now we found out that the kids were collecting pumpkins because there was 8 kids that died. So they have 8 jack-o'-lanterns, 1 for each kid. So now it's 3 kids go on the lift at first. Schrader, Macy, and the girl with the headpiece braces.
Sarah?
Yes, they all go onto the lift and they go down to the bottom of the quarry. It cuts. We don't see anything else from there.
They tell Rhonda and the other kid whose name I don't remember. What was his name?
Chip?
Chip. They tell Rhonda and Chip, I think like they each have 1 pumpkin and they're like, bring the rest. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
They're going to come second.
We cut to Lori just kind of like sitting there looking for a guy at the festival.
She's like on the prowl. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Her first time, she needs to find some dude out there, and it's a big city. I'm guessing because there's so many people out there, she could find someone.
But Lori's sister calls her, and she's like, get your ass to the party. She says, beggars can't be choosers. You have to just pick someone.
Pick somebody, pick anybody.
Like, they really, really want her to have her first time.
And
Yeah.
doesn't she say that she has a guy for her?
She has a prospect.
Oh, my, I forgot about that.
What's the name of the place again? Sheep something?
Sheep's Meadow.
She has a real good prospect for her. He's a really nice guy and be great for Lori. Camera pans, it's this fat guy in a
baby
Daniel
suit.
thumbs up.
Yeah, and I love how, like, Lori basically picks up on those context clues, and she's like, he's hideous, isn't he?
We were looking at that. Me and my friend were watching that scene, and we were just like, so what did her sister do to her to make her want to do that to her? Because she must really hate her to try and set her up with him. Even like the friend comes up, like, I think later, she was like, oh, who's this guy you have for Lori? And she's like, that one. And she turns around and looks at the guy in the baby costume. And even she turns around and she's like, ugh.
I think the sister was just so eager to get Lori to have her first time that she's like, just anyone, just so she can finally do it.
Doesn't it kind of seem like she's trying to get Lori to have her first time every Halloween?
That was the one thing I was curious about. This could just be Lori's first time going out with them. Because
maybe
when they're talking in the changing room, Lori's not talking to them.
It's
right. Just the three of them talking about going out the last couple of Halloweens.
Yeah.
So this might be Lori's first Halloween with them.
Gotcha.
That's how I took it as. Especially when they say other things later on.
I think you're right, because they exclude her from the conversations of their previous Halloweens.
Exactly. Now we cut back to Rhonda and young boy
Chip.
Yes. It's their turn to go down the lift, which I'm amazed still works after all these years.
Yeah, literally. You'd think it would be harder to get down. Like, they have their own key and everything.
I know.
Is it a wooden lift? It's got the metal gate, but I think the lift is wooden.
It's old, so
and
I mean...
I gotta say, this is just good old-fashioned Ohio craftsmanship.
So as they start to go down, they see 3 lit pumpkins in the fog. It's really foggy. Chip, he really starts to like panic. He's selling this panic.
I mean, it's scary. You can't really see. I mean, I think you can hear things. I think he hears Schrader say, I can't see shit in this fog. I think I found a dead retard. And then Sarah's like, that's me, asshole. Then he says, he sees something by a rock. And then Sarah screams, what is that? And she just, she starts going nuts. And Chip, he's hearing this as he's going down the lift. And he's getting creeped out and scared. He starts panicking. And he's like looking, he's like, I need to get up. But when it reaches the ground, there's like nobody there.
Rhonda leaves the elevator, but Chip, he's just like, he's too scared. He's staying in the elevator.
She's so brave. I felt so bad. She like gets out. She's like, I gotta help him. Even though she knows like a couple of them really don't like her. She's like, I gotta help him. I was like, she's such a brave little bean.
Yeah, Rhonda is awesome.
Yeah, she's a champ for sure.
She really is. She's so brave. Like she goes right to the water. Even when she sees like the masks floating like in the water, she like goes to check and she reaches for it. But that's when an arm jumps up and grabs her leg. And now this is where she panics because anyone would panic in this situation.
For sure. I mean, it definitely causes her to stumble backwards. And then she sees several people in masks and she darts. She just bolts away.
She gets back to the elevator where she sees Chip being eaten alive. His intestines are just being ripped out.
Oh, yeah, and in classic Velma Dinkley fashion, falls and just drops her glasses.
And they get stepped on. She sees, like, ghosts of the kids coming at her. She takes a step back and falls off. It's not a big ledge, but she falls off a ledge and hits the back of her head.
Yeah, a short fall, or as I like to say, jinkies.
You then realize these aren't ghosts. These are the kids playing a joke on her because they all take off their masks and like, oh, my God, she's dead.
They unmask. It's Schrader, Macy, Chip, and Sarah, the 4 kids. And this was the idea. Schrader charms her. They play a joke on her down by the rock quarry. And I'm going to be honest with you. All things aside, is a shitty thing to do. Bullying, whatever you want to say. Must have took them a lot of effort to go through this whole backstory and the history of this whole thing and string this thing together with the jack-o'-lanterns. Must have took a lot of thought process to pull this thing off.
So this is the thing. This is a great plan with a lot of effort put into it just to be a complete asshole.
Yeah, for real.
Like, put that effort towards something useful.
This is a lot of methodology here. You have to put everything and make sure everything's planned to perfection in order to work.
Schrader goes to check on Rhonda, and he's actually concerned about her. And he's even saying, like, hey, we went too far. But to be very blunt, Macy's a little cunt.
Oh, yeah. It makes you think, like, how contradicting her original costume was as an angel.
Like, Macy's like, don't worry about her. Who cares? It was a good joke. And Schrader's like, we went too far, essentially.
He was like, all right, let's go back. And she was like, why? Why do we have to go back? And he was like, she's hurt. Are you happy? Like, what more do you want?
And Macy makes a big mistake because as she walks back, she kicks a still lit jack-o'-lantern.
Yep. Which I think there was only 2 jack-o'-lanterns left, and she just got rid of one of them. I think it's Schrader and Rhonda make their way back to the elevator. The rest of the kids, though, haven't yet, and they start to hear noises coming from the bus, because now the bus is here.
Mm-hmm.
Cut back, the kids start yelling, and Schrader and Rhonda hear this. And Schrader says, I have to go back and see what's happening. So he does go back.
Tells Rhonda to wait there.
Exactly.
So he runs into Macy. We have to go. She tells him she heard voices. There are others here. And then they see the students slowly walk through the fog towards them. And we're talking the students that perished.
Yes, this is the 8 kids from the bus massacre.
And they appear to be wearing the same costumes from the story, maybe altered through time and through being waterlogged.
It's the same costumes, just worn out and wet. And they start running. And they get braces, girl.
They had chains all around. Like, they were still in their costumes and they had chains dragging behind them. So they basically like catch her chain and drag her back.
Yeah. So the other 3, Chip, Macy, and Schrader, they get to the elevator and Rhonda is sitting in it with her pumpkin. She sees them and they're like, please let us in, please let us in. And I fucking love this scene. She's going and you're like, okay, she's going to let them in. Hits the up button and just leaves them there. And I'm like, I know she just murdered 3 people. They deserved it.
And she waves bye.
I know.
She does it and she's like, this is sweet revenge.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I don't even feel bad for them. Fuck those kids.
Yeah, I mean, Schrader was the one, I guess you could say, but he went along with it. He's the one that deceived her.
Yeah, that's what we thought too. He seemed nice, but he didn't have any qualms with doing it.
Exactly. And Schrader would fall into the boat of me because I'm always up for a good jest and having fun, but not when the expense when someone's getting hurt or is scared.
Yeah.
Actually, that is total bullshit. I go to haunted houses all the time and I intentionally go out of my way to scare people.
It's different though, because
duly noted.
Yeah, you're in a haunted house. The intent is to be scared.
Yeah, no.
This, they thought they were just going to do something nice, and you could traumatize someone doing that.
That's the point of it. The point of it was no matter what, the other kids, fuck them, right?
Yeah.
But Schrader is the one that you were like, okay, he has sympathy towards her, but the deception and bringing them, he was the one that actually was able to bring her there.
The problem also is he's with them. She can't just let him in. If she's like, I feel bad for Schrader, I'll let him in, they'll all come in.
That's true.
So it's kind of like a sacrifice. So from that, she gets to the top and she starts wheeling her pumpkin, the last remaining pumpkin, in a little red wagon. You just see Sackboy watching her.
And I could be wrong. If you a little nod, they acknowledge each other.
They do. She has the pumpkin and she's leaving. They do see each other though, just nodding. And he's like,
she puts her hat back on. And
he respects that she respects Halloween.
Yeah, because she's a Halloween freak. Maybe she knows something that we don't know.
Which is possible. If she knows all this about Halloween, she might know that Sam, will say it, is the spirit of Halloween, essentially. So, she is Halloween, so that's why he won't do anything to her, because she is the holiday. It's good. I like that. It's a good little way for Rhonda to not wrap up her story yet, but for the most part.
So now we're going to go to Anna Paquin's character, Laurie's story.
Yeah.
She's walking through, it's like a forest, right? She hears footsteps behind her.
And she just knows she's being followed.
She's like, I'm not in the mood. Please, whoever it is, just come out.
She's on her way to shoot someone. She's kind of given up and it's I'll take whoever, what's-her-face gives.
The guy that's following her, though, is the guy in the mask that killed the other girl. He appears.
Call him Vampiro.
Vampiro, I like it. Old WCW wrestler. The guy comes up to her. I'm just going to throw this out here now. From this moment to the end of this scene is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, it's very good.
We'll get into it all now. He starts to bite her neck, and then it cuts back to the sisters at the party, and they're talking, and then a body falls from the trees. Now, the body is wrapped in her cloak. So the sisters go up to the body, and you just see Vampiro just cowering in fear. And now as a viewer, you're like, something's off now, because clearly it should have been her. How did she get the upper hand in this situation?
Yeah, he's like, help me.
And they kind of pull off his fake teeth.
Maria's character, right?
Yeah.
She just goes right out to him. She pulls out fake teeth, and I think she unmasks him.
Yes. This guy wasn't a vampire because his teeth were fake. And then you find out the guy was actually Principal Wilkins.
The whole time. So he's teaching his son how to kill, and he's doing a little bit himself.
So this is what he was referring to when he said he had to go out for a date. He goes out and kills women on Halloween night. This is also going to be my passion bump.
I'm with you.
For the movie. This is the only one. The girls all start to dance in this sexy way around the fire. And that's when you start to realize all the guys are dead.
All the guys are dead. And that's when you also start to realize, oh shit, Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams is playing.
Yes, I was going to mention that. Marilyn Manson, this song is so perfect for this whole scene that's happening because they're dancing around the fire. There's dead bodies everywhere. Marilyn Manson is playing in the background.
Passion bump. Passion bump. Passion bump. My G.
And then you just see a girl take her finger to another girl's back and tear her skin. It starts to open and you see the fur and you see like the arms come off like a rubber glove, wolf hand.
And you're seeing all of this from the principal's point of view because he's looking around. Like we see the dead bodies of all the other guys from his point of view because he's looking across the ground in like fear and horror. And then he turns around and watches them all stripping their skin.
The skin is stripping. While this is happening, Laurie's also slowly starting to mount Principal Wilkins. And she's like not clawing, digging into his skin, but like kind of going as she's starting to turn.
You see her fangs and everything.
And you see her fangs starting to come out. I love it because she was Lil Red Riding Hood, but she was the wolf the whole time. She was always the predator.
This movie's all about wolf in sheep's clothing. Like,
yeah.
If you think about it the whole way through, if you're talking about even like Sam's character and what Sam is, and we'll go into what Sam really is. You think of Macy, you think of her this nice angel. She's a total bitch.
Yeah. It's so well done. The fact that like now what we were talking about, they were always alluding to it being her first time. What they were always talking about was her first time out on the hunt with the wolves. Because they even say it in this scene right before he falls, that she was the runt of the litter. Mm-hmm. And now you make it think like, oh, she's the odd child out. But literally she was the small wolf of the pack.
Not after this night.
No, because then she eats Wilkins.
I love it because this is so awesome. She goes, my, what big eyes you have. Starts biting him in the neck. This is the same thing he says when he bites her in the forest.
Like I said, the whole time Marilyn Manson is playing. It's so perfect.
Hypnotic sequence with everyone's provocatively dancing. The way they start shifting. You talk about like werewolf shifts throughout movies, and there's some really cool ones, to be honest with you, with the bones breaking.
Exactly.
I've never seen anything, and you mentioned this, like this, where people start ripping their skins off.
Yes. Normally it's like the body transforms. This, they're actually shedding their skin to become the wolf.
And it's so cool because it's not even something that like just like naturally happens. They're ripping the skin off because it's underneath them.
Yes.
And they executed this so well.
And why we dub this a passion bump is because of her sitting on him with that line, which is like, it's great.
Dude, it's epic. Like you said, this is probably the best scene in the movie. There's a lot of good scenes. This is probably the best one, like Jen mentioned, just because of the way it's shot and in sequence. I'm not even a Marilyn Manson fan, which is a lot of horror fans are, but the song is perfect.
Yeah, I like some of his music, but like this song is just perfect for like this scene. And it's a good twist too. It's like a twist in the movie where like, I'll be honest, I never thought these girls were wolves.
Hell no. Like, you're thinking virgin the whole time. Like she's going to have her first time. Maybe a virgin in this capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they were going to be vampires at one point.
Did you?
Yeah, just if I was listening to and I'm shocked I didn't pick up on this because I'm actually really good at catching like little like foreshadowing hints that people say in movies, and I'm shocked that I just didn't notice it because I guess there was so much else going on. Because like before this scene, every scene for every story before the major scenes, there's like cuts to the next story, and like we said like in the beginning of the podcast, this movie really grasps your attention and makes sure you're constantly thinking. And it like surprises you at what point each story kind of intertwines with each other. So if I was listening way more closely, I probably would have picked up on all the little nuances referencing werewolves. Yeah. But they just did such a good job.
Just one last thing I want to say about this scene. Sam is actually watching this whole thing take place.
He seems to be everywhere, right?
Yes, which is what I like, is he sees all of these little things take place, which is cool because he's essentially the main thing also that connects all of these stories.
He is the connecting piece to every story.
Exactly.
While the stories are kind of interwoven, he is basically almost overlooking all of these events through all 5 stories.
Yeah, I guess it's
depends.
5.
It's 4 to 5. It depends whether or not you clarify 1 or 2 of those as stories, but I would say it's 5 tales. So now the scene is going to shift to even earlier in the night where a few trick-or-treaters are walking up to a house and you hear someone, he's like breathing heavily within the house. Obviously, this is Old Man Krieg's house. And they appear scared, but they still knock. And after many clicks, it sounds like this guy's like unlocking 15 locks. He unlocks the door, he opens it, they say trick or treat, and they just stare into darkness, and they see these 2 green eyes in the darkness, and they scream, and this thing just runs out and chases them. They leave, they close the gate behind them to safety, and they run away. But then you see Mr. Krieg, and it's actually Mr. Krieg's dog, and he's got like these glowing eyes on his head. It's a great way to scare off people. But it's kind of an issue if you're not letting kids get their candy. You're not giving candy out to trick-or-treaters. It's kind of a problem.
It is. It's not very Halloween of him. He goes inside. He starts watching TV. He also throws some pictures into the fireplace.
And this is big.
You don't know what they are, but he's throwing pictures into the fireplace.
He looks at the picture, right? I think Jen, doesn't he look at the picture and then he tosses it? As the viewer, we don't have like a good, because it's an old grainy photo. We don't have like a good look at what it is.
It wasn't even a big part of the movie at that point. They like show that he's like throwing something in the fire, but when I like looked down for like a hot second, I thought it may have just been newspaper. Like it wasn't very specific. We obviously don't see it till later.
Yeah. This is the one thing I did have an idea where this was going.
Me too.
I had an idea, so.
I was so
Really?
shocked. Because I always guess things in movies, but this surprised me. I thought he was like his own separate story. Just didn't realize how connected it was. And I don't know what I was doing that I didn't catch that he was throwing photos in, because sometimes, you throw like random pieces of paper into fires to keep them going if they're getting down. So I didn't catch that. And I'm disappointed. I wonder if I'll watch it a second time and I'll notice everything.
For sure.
He let his dog outside. So now this is where you're going to realize this is going to be all the events that led up to him getting tackled that Wilkins saw. Because he lets his dog outside. This is where he goes outside and has that conversation from earlier with Mr. Wilkins. Because he does that whole like, is that you, Wilkins? Are you burying dead bodies back there?
When he's done talking to Wilkins, Sam is in his backyard. Because when he's going inside, he's like, get your damn kid out of my yard.
I thought he was just saying that in general as a keep your kid out of my yard, like old man kind of thing.
Thought so too, but get your kid out of my yard. I didn't catch it the first time, but the second time when we're presented with his storyline, he says, get your damn kid out of my yard, and Sam is in his backyard.
Oh, so he might think that his own kid is dressed up
as
like
Sam.
Sam.
Yeah.
Because there's a camera angle when he's talking through the fence to Mr. Wilkins. Like, remember in the beginning of the movie where we kind of see like the person watching, what was her name, Anna, in the beginning of the movie?
Yes.
Emma.
And
Emma.
it's seen through like a shroud. Emma? Well, we get the same angle with someone watching him in his backyard.
That is so cool. The beginning piece, like Wilkins' story, you're just thinking, okay, his kid just goes into his yard all the time. Not thinking that now that you see him in that shot, because I didn't even know that was there. It's Sam. He thinks it's the kid dressed up as Sam, and he's just there. So clever.
Yeah, I honestly never caught that.
So cool.
So now we'll go back to him opening his front door, and there are pumpkins everywhere. But then when he goes back inside, his dog is still barking, correct?
Yes. Uncontrollably barking.
And he opens his front door.
He's got a bat in his hand, I think, right?
Obviously, he never put these pumpkins out.
Oh, no. He doesn't seem the Halloween-y festive type.
No. So obviously, this is where he goes and he grabs a shotgun. He's a hobo with a shotgun right about now.
I have a please explain to me for this scene.
Please explain to me.
These are the same pumpkins that are in Rhonda's yard in her storyline.
Yes, they are.
So is it her house? Or I was confused because I was like, I didn't think Rhonda lived there.
I honestly just think they
Reuse them?
did the same setup, yeah.
Recycled.
Okay.
Probably just easier.
It was very specific.
Yeah, no, it was. And you are right. They do look identical. But I don't think Rhonda has anything to do with, because in a scene we'll see later on, she walks past that house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't he go for like a smash on the jack-o'-lanterns?
He does one of them.
And then he hears the dog barking?
Yes, because that's when he goes inside. He gets his shotgun and he hears feet, like he hears the pitter-patter of feet above him. So that's when he goes upstairs and starts searching the bedroom. This is also another scene that's absolutely incredible. Because as he's looking through the bedroom, there's a fire pumpkin that lights up.
Yeah, it just ignites in like an inferno.
Yes, and there's just like trick or treat and all different things written in like basically blood,
it's
right?
Blood. It's trick or treat, give me something good to eat. Literally sprawled all across his room.
It's like the symbols from Night of the Demons just all around the room, but it's just as trick or treat.
Although this is not going to protect him.
Then
the
this
opposite.
movie pays homage to Pet Sematary, where he gets like his heel slit from under the bed.
I hate that.
Dude, this scene is actually really hard to watch because I feel like his leg is cut half the circumference of the actual leg.
It's pretty like brutal to look
I
at.
thought they cut his Achilles heel.
Was it the heel? I thought
Yeah, it was.
the
It looked
leg.
like the heel. That's why I said I thought it was like Pet Cemetery. Isn't it like the heel that gets cut?
You think like down here? I thought it was his leg and like halfway through. Because it looked like there was a lot of leg
No,
there.
it was really low. It was close to like the ankle area.
I got to go back and rewatch this now because now I'm curious.
It looked like he cut a lot of it.
Me and Miranda, because she like really cringes with like breaking bodies, like breaking bones and stuff like that. So, because she's like, I can almost feel it. And so when we thought he cut his Achilles heel, she cringed so hard. I was like, you gonna fall off the bed? You all right? You good?
Doesn't he continue to walk afterwards though? I feel like if you
He does.
You can't walk with on the heel that's slit. There's
Yeah.
no way.
He limps.
He does limp.
Oh yeah.
Well, regardless, it's not that important because he goes to shoot Sackboy, but misses and shoots the fire pumpkin.
Yeah.
And that
that's right.
doesn't just explode.
And Sam's gone.
And then he leaves the bedroom to go find him. And I love this. It's a fucking Home Alone booby trap where there's this candy sprawled across the stairs and he trips down the candy down the stairs and lands on glass candy. That's what I'm taking it as, right? It was supposed to be sharper glass candy. And he just carves his hands up.
I was so confused. I was like, what? It's glass?
This guy is run through the absolute ringer. Yeah, when he lifts his hands up, his hands are they're basically in shambles. I mean, there's just shreds of glass all over his hands and fingers. It's like a bloody mess.
He's now trying to like get his door open because, like you said earlier, it has like 100 locks, but his hands are so messed up, he can't get all the locks done before Sam comes for him.
And Sam comes, he's like crawling above him on the ceiling.
Yes, it's so creepy.
This ain't your ordinary trick-or-treating kid. Even if he was just some kind of kid maniac that was just slicing people up with his pumpkin lollipop.
Yeah.
This is something supernatural,
Yes.
as you've mentioned earlier.
I love that he was on the ceiling. I was like, oh, a spider child. Yay.
Oh my God. This is when he does run to the window and starts screaming for Wilkins from earlier, and where Wilkins ignores him, and then he gets speared by Sam. And they have their scuffle, and this is the reveal. He rips off the sack, and he has a demonic pumpkin face.
Very fitting. He's got the pumpkin weapon, literally like a knife lollipop. It's very sharp. And he's a pumpkin. The jack-o'-lanterns are to protect people. He has this demonic pumpkin head.
Yeah, it's a demonic pumpkin head. Mr. Krieg shoots him in the face, and he goes fucking flying through the hall into the wall.
I think, isn't it a door he hits?
Yeah, a wall
He hits
door.
the door and he just smacks to the ground.
Yes.
And he's just not moving.
And Krieg goes up there, and then he shoots him again in the chest, and then he shoots off his hand. And then he goes to call the police. While he's doing this, though, the line goes dead in typical horror movie fashion. And this is when, I love this, the severed hand stabs him in the foot.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. He has some of the best lines in this scene.
Pretty funny sequence too. He watches the hand, it like moves across the floor. He's like, "Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me!" Like I said, these guys getting, Home Alone is a good reference because those guys in PG fashion get literally just destroyed by Macaulay Culkin's character.
Yeah.
And this guy's literally getting destroyed by this
Demon Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now Demon Macaulay Culkin is going to kind of regenerate. I have to mention this first. The severed hand drags the sack back to him, then it reattaches itself, and then he puts the sack back on his head.
Doesn't he start waving too?
He does.
He like waves, he toys at him, and it's interesting because he doesn't talk, but he's got this creepy laugh, like a little kitty laugh.
Yeah. The fight breaks out again. Sackboy snaps his arm over like a door frame, like breaking his arm, and then he takes his lollipop out, right? And he bites into it like he's going to stab him with it.
Sharpens it, yeah.
Yeah, because this guy's bite makes things super sharp. He puts it in the air like he's going to stab him, swings it down, but he stabs a candy bar.
It's a chocolate bar. It doesn't hit Krieg. It hits the chocolate bar. He sniffs the chocolate bar, and then he takes it. He starts eating it. And it's interesting because this is technically considered an act of Krieg giving him candy,
Yeah,
thus fulfilling his Halloween obligation, and it allows Sam to back off.
yes, which is why Sam didn't kill Wilkins in the earlier scene, because Wilkins gave him the candy, which is an interesting tie back.
Yeah, like unspoken rules.
He then walks away from Krieg, looks back at him, turns around, and then the door just busts open with the wind, and he leaves and the door closes.
Now, this is the important part of this whole scene. Now we cut to the fireplace, and it zooms in on what he threw into the fire. And that's where you see the picture of the bus, the 8 kids, and the bus driver. So Krieg was the bus driver this whole time. from the massacre 30 years ago.
And it just seems he became more and more miserable because his whole thing is he's just a miserable old man.
Yeah, so I took it that after that whole bus incident, he just became a hermit.
A recluse.
A recluse, yeah, something like that. He opens the door, I'm assuming looking for Sackboy. And this is cool because as he's looking out his door, he sees Rhonda walking with her red wagon and her pumpkin. They walk by. He sees across the street his neighbors, who are Emma and her husband, who died at the beginning of the movie. Then you see the girls driving their car down the road, and then you see Wilkins' son sitting on the porch waiting for his dad to come home.
But he looks like a baby Wilkins. Like he's dressed in like glasses, and I'm like, oh my God, he's a baby serial killer.
Well, he's wearing his dad's shirt because he's wearing the white shirt with the blood. So I don't know if it's his dad's shirt or his dad gave him his own white shirt with blood, but he's wearing exactly what his dad was wearing.
And I think he also spots Sam standing in front of the house, still staring back at him. Sam also spots, at this point, Emma and Henry as they're walking home from the beginning of the movie.
Yes, which is how he ends up there.
Still in costume. Henry's like, you hear the line again, keep the jack-o'-lantern lit for ancient tradition, but she puts it out. And this is when he kind of bites into the carved lollipop and approaches the house. Now you know what that bite is on that lollipop because he sharpens it, but then he approaches their house, and that's the POV shot we discussed right in the beginning.
Yes. He sees all this. He closes his door. As soon as he closes his door, the doorbell rings. He opens the door, and it's the 8 kids from the school bus massacre. It is then alluded to that they attack, kill him, and the movie ends.
I just want to say, I think that this movie is honestly just a really special movie to watch around Halloween. I mean, we're going to get into the review, but just the way that the ending tied in together, I mean, it's like perfect.
Yeah.
It's like a perfect way to tie in all these 5 tales. Definitely the best anthology movie I've seen, but just in terms of this being Halloween, like this movie really is with these rules and what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. I'll get into my review. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
So I had this movie at an 8. Like rewatched it, I gave it a 9. This is probably a top 10 to 15 movie for me in the horror genre. One of my favorite movies. It is, and I know we're going to be reviewing Halloween next week, the ultimate slasher, arguably 1 or 2 top slashers, probably either that or Texas. I don't know. This is my favorite Halloween movie. I gave this a 9 out of 10, and there's really not a flaw in the film. Every story flows well with each other. I love how you see how these stories kind of are interwoven. You see each different story kind of interact. The Wilkins story with his son becoming a serial killer, him being a killer himself and kind of getting killed by the girls who are trying to pick up guys. Lori who's doing it for her first time. And you kind of always see like people like when Wilkins is killing that girl, she runs into Emma and Henry walking home. So they're constantly kind of interacting in this crazy timeline during the night of Halloween in this town. But more so than that, it's very thematic. And I think the thematic aspect of these unwritten rules and how this character, Sam, is almost the overarching god, or what do you call him? Because I did some research. People think he's a god. Some people even think he's some kind of overlooking angel.
I just consider him the spirit of Halloween. And he punishes those who don't
respect it.
Yes, who don't respect the spirit of what Halloween is.
They don't abide by
the rules.
And they're the unwritten rules that we discussed. And I think what's pretty cool is when he gets the candy from Steve Wilkins and he gets a candy from Krieg, he doesn't actually kill Krieg. He doesn't actually kill Wilkins.
No.
They die, but Wilkins dies from the wolves. And Krieg dies from 8 kids that
Vengeful spirits
that he agreed to drown them in the lake. The acting is phenomenal. The cast is great. I know this is the director's first work, and I feel like he just knocked it way out of the park. This movie went way under the radar, and it's finally getting, I would say probably over 5 years, it's gotten considerable reputation as being one of the all-time great Halloween movies, and I think it's just going to continue to grow. I think the lore of Halloween is fantastic. They kind of refer to this movie as it is a magical night. For a lot of people, it is. It's a really fun time. Even if you're not into trick-or-treating or this or that, this time of the year is awesome to watch horror movies. Like I know there's a lot of specials where you watch 31 horror movies for 31 days throughout October. And I feel like this has got to be, if not the last movie on the 31st day, it should be the first movie to kick it off because it really is so special and captures what Halloween is.
Agreed. So I'll go into mine now. I'm also giving this a 9 out of 10. It is, like you said, it's the quintessential Halloween movie. It is Halloween. It's what Halloween's all about. It has the trick-or-treating, the ghosts, wolves, a fake vampire. It has everything that Halloween is about. And it's a cohesive story. It's well acted, like you said. I don't want to keep repeating what you said, but It's great. I mean, and going back to something we had talked about, the wolves are portrayed just like werewolves are. They're vicious. They trick you. They're super horny. They're wolves.
They're feral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Dylan Baker, Principal Wilkins, incredible acting. It's such a good movie. And it's like you said, you can't find a flaw in it, really. I don't want to give it a 10. That's reserved for the best of the best. So I'm with you. I'm going to give this a 9, and I will leave my review at that. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just going to repeat everything you said for the most part.
What do you got,
I feel
Jen?
like in terms of a Halloween movie, like I'm not going to compare this to the quintessential like horror movies and what is like a cult classic. I don't think it was trying to be like any of the cult classics. I think it's a whole like beast of its own. And I really enjoyed it. I think they did an excellent job. It has like all the nuances in movies that I love. It has foreshadowing. It has like hinting at things that are like really big later. This is like a 10 for me because I want to watch this like every year now. I can't wait to show it to a couple people I know. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I know that like for you guys, it's not like your 10 of a horror movie, but I'm not even going to try and compare it to put it up there with Halloween or any of the slashers in its own category of what it is. It's a 10 in my book.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It shouldn't be compared to those movies. I know I was trying to make a comparison because it does take place on Halloween, but this is more of a thematic movie versus, a slasher. But no, I totally agree. It shouldn't be compared to those movies because it is very different and telling a complete total story of what Halloween is.
It didn't confuse me whatsoever. I really enjoyed every single storyline.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. It's a cohesive story. Like, you're never confused about what's happening. Now, like you said earlier, the order, I think I know for the most part the order. The last thing that happens
is Emma and Henry.
Emma and Henry's story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, then, that means Mr. Krieg being killed is before that.
Yes.
I think what happens right before that would be the werewolf orgy.
Because they're coming home.
From that. That's what I'm assuming.
I think the werewolf and Rhonda's stories take place at the same time.
At the same time.
Because they're crossing together at that one point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That place our residential serial killing principal first.
Yes. Him and Charlie, I think, is the first thing that happens in the movie.
Yeah.
He also says like he goes hunting later. Like he has to go on dates later, which is really just his way of killing a lot of girls.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I don't know why he doesn't just tell his son that, unless it's just code for him and his son, because his son is a serial killer in training. So I'm assuming he knows his dad's going to kill girls.
Yeah, and that's why you see his son waiting at the end. He's waiting for his dad to come back.
Probably to like carve up a girl pumpkin.
And you can't, like, kids repeat everything. So it would make sense that he would have to have these code words, like when he's going out to, like, massacre all these women, he's referring to it as he's going on dates. So if his son ever repeats anything, it's like, oh, his dad dates around a lot.
You talk about these concepts, and I think it's very interesting. I mentioned Sam is short for Samhain.
Samhain. Sam.
Yeah, I'll get it right eventually.
Samhain.
The Gaelic festival celebrated between October 31st and November 1st, marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. He appears, as I always use this, like wolf in sheep's clothing. He's like this innocent trick-or-treater, and he's like the overseer of all of these rules. Some of these rules include, never blowing out a candle or lantern before 12 a.m., giving out candy to trick-or-treaters, wearing a costume. Those are some of the rules they explain in the movie. And they further explore on this theme of, as I mentioned, wolf in sheep's clothing. It's the principal is a killer. The principal is supposed to be someone that educates kids. He's in fact a serial killer who's even teaching his son to be a serial killer. Like, what a role model. Little Red Riding Hood being a wolf. And I think is also interesting to point out too is that Sam, his character, Halloween's unwritten rules. Emma blows out the jack-o'-lantern in the beginning. Macy kicks the jack-o'-lantern out, dies, obviously. And Krieg, he scares away children for trick-or-treating, which is interesting because right after the scene where Sam leaves his house, gives kids candy immediately out of his sling.
It's so funny. We actually didn't mention that. That's right. He is in like bandages around his head, a sling, and he just throws like hundreds of mints into their bag because he probably didn't have candy, but...
Yeah, and I wonder if he knew. Looked very confused when Sam left him after he took the chocolate bar. He leaves. I don't know if he put it all together, but he changes his tune because he was scaring kids,
fast.
Giving kids candy after that sequence.
I thought the kids from the bus were there to get candy as well. They had bags.
They did have bags.
Yeah, but they were there for revenge.
They were there for revenge.
Yeah.
But that's why I like it, because the movie stayed consistent. Sam didn't kill them, but the kids were there. So it's really cool.
It's a great movie, man. It's a great movie. Halloween. What a great holiday.
It's exciting, man. It just sucks with this whole COVID situation because I so want to go to a haunted house. And
I know. It's on a full moon on a Saturday.
Yeah,
It's a shame.
it is. It's a shame, too. We only have one more week left, but it's a big one at least.
we ended
It's
with,
gonna be a fun week.
with an absolute banger. Should
Yeah.
be a lot of fun.
The last movie we are doing, as we've said, is the original Halloween, which, if not the best, the second best slasher ever made.
This is such a highly debated point because people are like, oh, Friday the 13th, whatever. I just think it's Halloween and Texas. Those are my top two.
In terms of slasher, those are the two pinnacles. I love Friday the 13th, but it doesn't come close to those two movies.
I agree.
So before we go, I need a vote. Who in this movie we are adding to our Necronomicon?
Great, because there's a lot of good.
I know. There's
a lot
so
of good
many
death
good
scenes.
ones.
Let me think. I'm going to go with Scarecrow Jesus.
Interesting. I was going to go Steve Wilkins. I was going to go Wilkins.
I was going to do Wilkins too.
We can do Wilkins. I kind of liked her whole setup of how, with the actual, pumpkin lollipop in her mouth and all that.
I
But
do
Wilkins'
too.
death is the best scene in the movie.
I mean, everything's like Creed gets his comeuppance, even after
Yeah.
kind of changing his tune as the grumpy old man, and he gets his comeuppance. But the Steve Wilkins lead up death is just so
it's great.
good.
It is great.
And I would like to say a few words for Steve. You know, he was a very nice man. He educated the youth. He was a great father figure, and we're all going to be very sad to see him go.
We can bring
I
it
agree.
back eventually.
All right. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. Let's do it. Steve Wilkins is our second name into the Necronomicon.
Slam it shut.
Into the book he goes.
So, with all that said, thank you once again for listening. Thank you, our producer, Jen, for being on with us now every single episode. And we are two guys, one Necronomicon, signing off. And we will see you next week in Haddonfield, Illinois. And if you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook at 2 Guys 1 Necronomicon. Also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2 Guys 1 Necro. Also, if you can, and if you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, please throw us a rating on there. 1 star, 5 star, whatever it is, just let us know your feedback. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's a wrap.